All good.
You're good.
Yes. Yes. All good. And it's on.
Good evening, Washington County. It is January 10th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. or around there. And time for our first regular meeting of the month and year. So at this time, Mr. Johnson is going to lead us in an invocation, and Mr. Blair is going to lead us in a pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, we gather today with gratitude for our friends and neighbors, appreciating the health of our community, the strength of our relationships, and the opportunities for growth you have bestowed upon us. Thank you for the many blessings we enjoy and those that are yet to come. Guide us as we endeavor to do good works for our city, seeking to foster unity and care for those in need. As we face challenges on this journey, grant us the wisdom, empathy, and courage to overcome obstacles we may face with resilience. May our diverse talents and perspectives contribute to the betterment of our community. Lastly, remind us always that as we endeavor to do these good works, it is your will and not our own that should be done. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we take the roll call, Kevin, I want to officially welcome Mrs. Hall to the front of the room.
It's different on this side.
You'll find out it's different. Okay, roll call, please.
Blair.
Here.
Hall. Here. Chrisman.
Here.
Hawk.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Lynch.
Here. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first one was from our regular meeting on December 27th, 2022. Anybody see any changes that needed to be made in that?
I have a question. When a person makes a motion, can they also second it?
No.
Well, Mr. Schultz apparently did. On page,
Oh,
page 7, he seconded his own motion.
We'll check on who it was, Ted. You're right, that's not.
It's not
Thank you.
So we will check. Anything else that we have? That's where I'm glad you noticed that. If not, with that change, does someone want to?
I'll make a motion that, with that change, that we accept the minutes as printed here.
Second.
Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Hall. Yes. Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. And then our council reorganizational meeting on January 2nd, 2024. Did Steve try to do two
Well,
things there?
He appeared as Mrs. Schultz on page 2.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, you're right.
Well-
That's why I made two motions and seconded, because I could.
Well, Kelly changes that, do we have any others? Does
So which
someone
one is
Make
that?
a motion with that change.
Oh, no,
Yes.
Oh,
I do have one thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I was quite frankly surprised at the language and the tenor of my supposed remarks reflected in the minutes before the vote on council chairman. The minutes, first of all, did not reflect my true intention and left out several points that I tried to make. Those in attendance can honestly say that at no point in my comments did I complain, as it was put, about not being able to participate in the budget discussion. Everyone on council and administration knew I would not be available on the dates originally set up by an email that I sent out advising all I would be on vacation. My complete discourse started out, I am not withholding my vote. However, would like to make a couple of comments. I would like to see whoever is council chairman to be more accommodating and involve committee chairpersons more in scheduling meetings and disseminating important information. I continued my comments by stating that the budget is arguably one of the most important pieces of legislation for the city for the year. It only makes sense that the chairman of this committee be given a voice in budget talks. I also mentioned the fact that accommodation was made for another council person by changing the day from a Monday to a Thursday. My second point I disclosed was that the second meeting of the budget was scheduled at the exact time I was being sworn into city council next door at the municipal court. Administration was aware that this was the case. I asked the question why it couldn't have been held 30 minutes later, so I, as chairman, could be present to observe the proceedings. Then I proceeded to cast my vote for chairman. With all this being said, I request that these minutes be edited to include the whole story. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. It's fine with me if we add those.
I'll give a copy of it to the secretary then.
Okay. And then, with that, do we have a motion to accept?
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept this with the addition of the statement that Mr. Blair just read. Is that okay? Okay,
I'll second.
there we go.
And the change for Mrs. Schultz.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Mrs. Yes.
All right.
And the change, Mrs. Thank you.
With those two changes,
Yes.
roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Hall. Yes. Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Any communications, Mr. Dennon?
None.
We had no report of council committees. Reports of the city manager is next on the list, Mr. Dennon.
Okey dokey. Oh, we went over that you had a slight gain in, the general fund and Fund 101 for the end of the year ending December 31st. Would like to thank Jefferson Township for their cooperation with the JED. We've been making very good progress there and enormously pleased with that, and that is truly a joint effort, and the township trustees have been most helpful. You have on council's agenda the Downtown Vitality Task Force, which would be a new creation. It's an opportunity to think of broad approaches to downtown, provide us with some guidance too when we interact with other downtown entities like Main Street Fayette. We had a very nice productive discussion with Mandy Miller, the new Main Street person, about what we have observed works well and what doesn't appear to work. So we will continue to further that, and I've ordered some book about resilient downtowns that I think would be helpful to the participants, but it is a piece of legislation which I think is needed and would be of tremendous amount of help to me, I would think, because increasingly as some issues get a little bit more complicated, we need a little bit of help and assistance. I gave you the report concerning health insurance utilization. And what you'll see there is claim costs on average went down for the non-high cost claimants, and high cost claimants went dramatically up. So you spent more, you had more expense there last year than the prior year. That's a complicated way to say that occasionally there's a year where some people get seriously ill, and that can be expensive. But there's a lot of those folks that were seriously ill, they're looking better, so that ought to improve in 2024. Would like to thank the planning commission for a busy start to the year. Last year was a record for housing starts, and we anticipate surpassing that number in a responsible manner. There'll be a fair amount of time that we expend on those type of issues in 2024, and in particular, single-family housing starts. We're gonna make a concerted effort to continue to push that number forward. The land bank has made a valuable contribution to that effort in 2023 and in 2024. With the help of the land bank, we should continue to make excellent progress along with new development. I would like to thank the commissioners for their cooperation and Dana Floor for her dedicated work. Specifically, we would be interested in the demolition of the entertainment facility on Rollins Street. You know, I'll be able to get rid of it in 24. I'd like to thank Kelly and Mika Rhodes. We recently sent them to a trade show for festivals. The desire being to keep things like the Scarecrow Festival fresh so that it doesn't get stale. And, you know, you can meet some different potential opportunities there and options. In good news, Toast of Summer event will be returning in 2024. I would like to thank all involved with the event. An event like the Toast of Summer is a tremendous amount of work, but great fun for many people in our community, and would like to sincerely thank everybody involved with that. Note, we updated the water emergency plan. I didn't print that out for you. That is something that we look at periodically because I get rid of a lot of trees if I did that. But basically, that is where we have laid out different issues if you ran into some sort of natural disaster or something of that nature. Electric aggregation. The current arrangement expires in May of 24, commencing 5/1/24 until 5/1/25. The rate will be 0.0618. Now, that is slightly higher than what we pay now. The county program is going to mirror that action. So it shouldn't make any difference if you live in or around town, if you participate in an aggregated electric through the city or the county. We try to do that so that makes that easy for everybody. AES has auctioned off a good portion of their load. They got a little bit more to go. If they end up at probably, I would guess, 9 cents a kilowatt hour, if you annualize the savings for a customer, comparing an aggregated customer to a standard offer customer, it would annualize out to probably around $240 a year. For the average single-family household, if they were not heating with electric. And if they're heating with electric, that would be a different ballgame. But if you're heating with gas or a heat pump or something of that nature, I would guess probably about $240 a year. And that is everything I have to say. I do need some assistance. I need a motion and a second to bid for lime sludge removal, which is something I know that you're all just itching to do.
I'll make a motion
I'll second.
for bid lime sludge.
Any other discussion about lime sludge?
It's fun stuff.
Blair,
We try not to.
Yes.
Roll call.
Blair, Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. We need a motion for wastewater sludge.
Yeah, even better than that, sewer sludge, which I'm sure you're all excited to talk about.
A slimy way to start off the new year, isn't it?
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make the motion for sewer sludge.
All right, I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion about sewer sludge?
Turn my 10-year-old.
I know, right?
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I forgot to write down, We talked to you about the streets, but it would be nice if we went ahead and got rid of the motion and second to bid for paving. And then we'll work on the paving list, and in particular, that gets influenced by how hard a winter we have. But a motion and second, and then we'll go ahead and get, service and the mechanism we go through for that started.
I'll make a motion that we, accept the, resolution, or is it a resolution?
Yeah, it's just a motion. and
Just a
second.
motion to, have the city manager bid out for the paving for 2024.
I'll second that.
Discussion. And roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
And after the meeting's over with, we'll need you folks to hang around for a minute, because we'll need to take a new photo. So please don't bolt out the door. And we will take a new photo when we're done. Anybody have any questions about anything?
Mr. Director of Finance, do you have anything?
Just a quick couple things here. Been busy the last couple of weeks with the month-end, quarter-end, and year-end reports. They're all due, of course, by the end of this month. But based on what I've seen from pulling some of the stuff from last year, we're ahead of that time frame, so I feel good about that. So we're in pretty good shape right now, report-wise. Statement of cash as well, we're in a good place. It's close to last year's numbers for this time. The investments are fine, like we talked about last time. I think there's better opportunities out there, and we'll start to explore those in the next couple of weeks once we wrap up our year-end reports and stuff for this thing. All in all, we've got a stable foundation right now. Our plans are to continue this through prudent financial management, responsible budgeting, and strategic investments. And by doing this, it'll help us weather economic situations or challenges that occur while maintaining those essential services that are important to our community. So, that's all I got.
Okay,
Super.
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney?
Well, I would like to thank Judge Wolsheim for a smooth transition at the municipal court. Everything seems to be going well and smooth. I think she's started off running, so I wanted to express my appreciation to her and to all the staff.
How's the construction going over there?
Slow.
I got you. Okay.
They're laying carpet now. So I expect next be a couple more weeks and everything will be pretty well in order.
Very good. News. Okay, local residents and taxpayers. Having trouble reading. Christine, I'm not having trouble reading.
Okay. Welcome, Sylvia. I don't like to speak in public, but I've also had 2 cortisone shots, and so I'm a little jittery, so just bear with me. And I know probably no wife of the councilman has ever spoken before. However, I am also a citizen and a taxpayer, and so I have some concerns. The first thing I'd like to address is the increase in the water and sewer. According to the ordinance, it reads that it will increase 5% each and every year. Now, Mr. Johnson and I believe Mr. Denon last meeting said, well, that's only going to be about, if your average bill is 80, which is what you said it was, correct?
They talked about an average bill of 80.
And then Mr. Johnson said, well, you know, that's what, a Coke at a meal. And we all eat out, and we all know that's a Coke at a meal. But a lot of people in this city don't eat out because they can't afford to eat out. They live on a very fixed income, especially if they're on Social Security. Yes, on Social Security we got a raise, but by the time we paid increased Medicare, we didn't get much more. And if you increase it each and every year, which I will say Mr. Blair asked that there be an ending time set on that, and it evidently wasn't approved. You know, in 5 years, that's over 25% more. 10 years, it's over 50% more. Food's going up, gas is going up. I don't think people in this city can afford it. And so I would like to have that reconsidered. I think I read in the charter that citizens, you can correct me, Mr. Lynch, if I was wrong, that citizens can ask to have an ordinance removed or changed, is that correct? So even if the 7 of you think it's okay to keep adding this cost to the citizens themselves could then ask to have a change. Okay. The next thing was, and I know we didn't have it recorded, the meeting last time. Don't know why. We could see everybody, but we couldn't hear anybody. But I don't think that Mr. Remington's questions were answered. And I know that Mr. Lynch addressed him at the end of the meeting without giving him a chance to say anything back, but yet you didn't answer him when he posed the question. So I'm going to pose the same question and see if I get an answer. He wanted to know if tax money, our tax money, his and anybody that has a business in town or anybody that resides in town, if our tax money has been used to settle suits for sexual harassment or any other suits, because, and Mr. Lynch, you especially have always said, we're transparent, I don't like people questioning our transparency, and yet we know that money has gone out. Can the citizens know how much has been spent and why we're not allowed to know?
Yes,
Yes, what?
the answer to your question is yes, they can.
Okay, could you tell
But
us
the
how much?
answer furthermore is, where did Mr. Pitstick go?
Oh, there he is.
Mr. Pitstick, since I don't want to answer it because he'll think I'm making something up, has the city ever been sued for a sexual harassment case?
No.
Because since he brought that up, I thought I'd do some research, and today I saw a letter from Mr. Dennis to a lawyer firm as the exact amount that was going to be paid out.
But it wasn't for sexual harassment.
Well, any kind of suit then, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so if there's a suit that my taxpayer money is being used to settle a suit with nobody knowing it, that's not transparent in my eyes. Just saying.
City council knew it.
City council is not the citizens, not all of the citizens
That's true.
of the city. So if
But if
we
you
ask a
remember-
question, why can't we be told? Why is it not being said?
If you remember, the accusations against me,
No, it was not. I wish we could play last week's meeting back. He did not address that to you, Mr. Lynch, and I know you took that personally. I'm not a friend of Mr. Remington's, I don't know him that well. That was not addressed to you, and you took it, and the tirade showed that, and I was very upset with everything, but
so was I.
I understand that, but,
Because he said it happened during my time as chair.
but he didn't say it was you.
Oh, he
And
didn't say
that's-
it was me that
no.
had the sexual harassment.
No.
He insinuated that I knew about sexual harassment.
Were the checks not written to somebody during your chairmanship?
Yes,
Okay.
but it wasn't sexual
Okay, then
harassment.
can you tell me what it was for?
Yes, there was an employee that we dismissed. First of all,
Yeah.
can I speak to this?
Sure.
I mean, it's an employee situation, so I wanna make sure I'm not saying something. There are certain things that you can't speak about with employees,
I understand that.
so that has something to do with it, but I wanna know whether I can speak to it.
Not specifically to who it was.
Okay. There was an employee who was dismissed for good cause. the employee who was dismissed wanted back pay. We had a choice. Give that back pay, correct me if I'm wrong, or go to court, which would have cost twice as much, if not more. So we did that. There you go. It wasn't sexual harassment.
Okay, well, I guess I don't have a right to know. Anyway, is the.
I don't know, does she have a right to know?
If she wants to make a records request.
Okay, that answers that question.
Okay.
I just have one more thing. Like you said, I have been looking at the charter because I've been concerned about a couple things for 4 years and haven't addressed anything. So, you said last week you were chairman of that charter commission. And
I was.
Okay. If I remember correctly, and no, this is not coming from Jim, this is coming from my own reading of the charter. It says very clearly that at this meeting, a commission will be appointed to go over that charter.
Does it say this meeting? Not this meeting.
It says the first meeting of January of the new year, so
Oh.
I would assume this is the first meeting of
It
January.
is, first regular meeting, yes.
We
I
know,
can't recall.
yeah, well, first of all, we haven't gotten our committees prepared yet. We haven't, I don't know who is going to be on any of the committees. And in fact, when we have our committee meetings, is usually when we make that discussion, or that decision as to what we're gonna do. So, I guess it will be at the next series of committee meetings.
So who chooses those? Everybody on council will choose that. Okay, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Chris, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
So, you mentioned first the increase in
Yes.
water and sewer. So bringing it back to that, I know that was a while ago, but is there an amount that you think would be reasonable for us to increase the amount by?
Well, when I first heard the ordinance mentioned, I thought it was gonna be 5%, period. From here on out, it's gonna be 5%. It wasn't until I looked at it more closely and realized it's 5% every year. And I think then an end has to be made. Rather it be 5 years, 6 years, whatever, you just can't keep expecting people on fixed incomes to pay more and more. It's just my opinion.
So if there was language that it wouldn't increase further under that particular ordinance,
Even a
after
matter-
5 years, that would be
3
sufficient.
years, 5 years, at least there'd be an end to it.
Yeah.
This could go on till the city's no more or the Lord comes back, you know. So I just felt there should be an amendment to put an ending date.
Of course.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dennett, do you want to comment in any way?
I noted at the last meeting that if you wanted to put an end date on it, so there was a point at which you can reconsider it, you can certainly do that. Also, nothing prevents you from passing the piece of legislation. It does not become ingrained in stone. You can revisit that at any point in the future after you passed it, like you have a set of utility rates now, and this piece of legislation proposes to change that. The other thing that's important to remember, it's 4% on the sewer side of the bill and 1% on the water side. So it's not an equally distributed arrangement. But if you wanted to say that 4 years is a reasonable point into the future, you can do that. Now, I imagine you may have to look at the issue again before the 4-year period's up.
Okay.
So
instead of putting an ending date on it, we put a date, revisit it every 3 years, every 4 years, something like that, in the wording.
In the wording, or we brought up before some time ago, and the idea didn't seem to go anywhere, that you had like a separate rating commission to look at the issue annually. That's something that you can do. We can talk about that again if there's any interest in that. But this stems from the matter that, you know, when I write the annual budget letter, I've noted that you have a problem there for a couple of years now.
Anything else?
Could I piggyback off of the charter deal? The charter does state that any recommendations by the commission has to come before council by August 1st. So I'm afraid that we get bogged down. What committee is going to look at this, Mark? There's no procedure out there how this commission operates.
I understand. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to talk with Mr. Lynch and decide how he would like to handle this to get this committee up and going. This will be the third time that we've had a charter review committee or commission, whatever you want to say, and it's always operated the same way. We set it up. Council makes recommendations as to who they would like Mr. Denon to go talk to see if they're going to want to participate, because some people don't want to participate. So this is a task that requires a great deal of time and thought and discussion within the community as to what the community will like to see. Then they will make a recommendation to council, and and again, we have the, I don't know whether we have the minutes tonight, but we have the minutes of the last committee that made recommendation to council with reference to what they wanted to see. But that will become to council, and council can either say yes to their recommendations or no to their recommendations. So it does take a great deal of time to get people together to agree to sit on a commission. It takes a great deal of time and thought.
Well, I mean, several weeks ago, I read that in the charter, and I think I've talked to you.
You have talked to me and
other people
yeah.
on council.
And we want to get started as quick as we can.
Well, yeah, and I don't think there's gonna be an issue with getting people. I have 4 names already of people that have willingly volunteered to serve. And I think Mr. Johnson has a name also already. So I just would like to see us.
I agree.
Post haste, you know, get this thing, get it going.
I agree.
Should I give those names to
I would.
the secretary?
That's up to you. That's entirely up to you. I think it needs to come in front of the full council, and you need to talk, whether by yourselves, about each individual, and then reach out and decide whether or not this individual is somebody who wants to serve.
The only question I would have to that, I think, just to be careful, we can't have all of us together talking about an issue like
No.
that separately from a different meeting.
You're
Just
going
to
to have to
clarify.
have, it's going to have to be, as I said, one of the committee meetings coming up here, that is, I would say, at the next council meeting, before the next council meeting, and I don't know which committees will be the next meeting, I don't know.
It makes sense, it'd be finance and personnel, that committee will meet in 2 weeks.
And that's where we'll start the process.
But in the meantime, it's fine with me, if you have names, give them to me. We'll collect names,
Okay.
anybody, everybody.
The names that we pick, the group of 9 that we pick members, has to be a very diversified choice from around the city. A little bit different people. It can't be just certain people, it has to be a diversified group of people. So when we pick the names, we have to be a little careful who we pick and make sure certain parts of the city.
Well, I will be happy to provide you the resolution of council. It was a very diverse group
Good.
at the last commission, and I think you would agree when I give you a copy. I don't have the original resolution, but I do have a copy that we prepared, so I'll be happy to provide that, along with a copy of the minutes of the commission at their last hearing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's all I have.
Amy Davis, you're up. You would state your name and address, that would be there for the record.
Amy Davis, my address is 608 South Main. I'm sorry, I hate public speaking. I'm a newer member of the city, 2.5 years, I think, now. I inherited, when I bought my house, a tree, and I talked to a council person, call about it. It's in the space between the sidewalk and the street, and it's like pushing up the sidewalk. So it's a safety hazard. So when I have kids like trick-or-treating or when I go for a walk, it's a safety hazard. So I don't think there's anything that council can do to help remove the tree, if that's possible. I know Ms. Call said that there was a possibly a grant for it or not.
That's what I was talking to you about, Mr. Denton.
Okay.
And I couldn't remember exactly what you had said about what qualified and didn't qualify.
Okay. Mr. Lynch, you want me to explain?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
A tree planted in a public right-of-way, or that can impact a public right-of-way, basically meaning streets, sidewalks, or alleys, falls under the jurisdiction of the tree committee. The tree committee can compel the removal of the tree, or prune it for the tree's health benefits, etc.
I can tell you, I'm sorry, I did have it looked at. When I called, because I had no idea, because City on Fum, they just did it, the city just did it. So I wasn't sure how that worked here. They said no, but they could recommend 2 places. One place did come out, they said the tree is basically 90% dead, so
Okay.
there is no pruning on the street.
A private tree planted in the right-of-way, in other words, a tree that the tree committee didn't plant,
Yeah, I can't tell you that, so yeah.
is the private property owner's responsibility. When you bought the house, you bought the tree. Now, with that said, council, you remember you passed a piece of legislation a couple meetings ago that authorized city manager to apply for tree grant from the National Forestry Fund or whatever. That provides resources, or it would, for 3 census tracts in Washington Courthouse. And one of the identified activities was removal of hazardous trees, along with planting trees. And you live where, did you
Main
say that?
Street,
Main
right
Street?
by the football field.
Right by the football field.
Yeah.
I'd have to get out the map and look to make sure. But the tree at this point in time would be your responsibility.
Okay.
But we'll go out and take a look at it. Who came out and looked at it? Mr. Ewing or Mr. Cundiff or?
It was we caught some place here in town, some tree service, and they didn't come. So we actually got a gentleman out of Wilmington that came and looked, and
Okay.
I tried to find the estimate, I couldn't find it.
Okay. Now, if, what did you say your address was?
608 South High, or South Main, sorry.
Of course, you know, removing the tree isn't gonna fix the sidewalk.
Well, the roots are there, so it should drop it back down.
It won't.
No.
They have to take those roots up.
And we'll track you down going from there, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marvell.
Hi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to advocate for completing the Paint Creek Recreational Trail. As you may know, 30 miles of the trail has been completed since the 30 miles was completed in 2011, when a 6-mile section between Fairview Road and Austin was completed. And we've been waiting for 20 years for this last 2.5-mile section to be completed from Old Chillicothe Road, Washington Cemetery, to the Shaw Wetland. Presently, users have to navigate Old Chillicothe Road, Industrial Park, across 753, run about 3/4 of a mile down Robinson Road to get there. And this project started back in the 1990s when a group of citizens, I wasn't included in that initial group, thought it'd be a good idea because they'd seen it across the state. Greene County, the closest county, has 62 miles of rail trails, to buy the CSX Railroad from Washington Courthouse to Chillicothe. So we proceeded to raise money, and we raised quite a sum of money to buy that from the railroad, and it wasn't easy to do, as you might imagine. Part of that was this right-of-way from Shaw Wetland along the added track that was extended in the industrial park, under 753 at the 753 bridge, and then it would go up Dog Food Road, I forget the name of it, and across and then under 753 and across Lowe's Boulevard. It would eliminate the 753 crossing, result in a couple of lower volume traffic crossings to get there. And in 2015, we partnered with the city to do that project. It also included getting a trail to the Y. And it's great fanfare at the YMCA. The Director of the Department of Natural Resources was there. Some state officials, local officials, council persons, county commissioner, all was presented a $500,000 check to do this project. Well, it went on and on and on, and finally after 7 years, ODNR rescinded the grant. They did give the courtesy to the city. Oh, by the way, we found the person who wrote the grant, and it was successful on the first try, which is a rarity, but it's because Ohio Department of Natural Resources really considered Tri-County Triangle Trail at the time, it's called Paint Creek Recreational Trail, a high priority because of its connectivity. It went back, and in April last year now, there was another round of applications to resubmit the grant, and it wasn't resubmitted. So what we would like to see done is get this finally completed. We think recreation is important. I think you all would agree it's important. Outside exercise, rail trails or recreational trails of any kind are good, they're easy. You don't need a membership, you just need a pair of walking shoes. And Tri-County Trail has been around we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We have made several local contributions to grant projects of about $30,000 each to complete sections of the trail, 5-6 miles at a time to get it done. We have 2 vehicles, a Polaris and a Ranger, and a high-powered blower. We do the volunteers clear the trail. We go out and cut trees down across the trail. We cut hazardous trees. We repair bridges, the surface. We pave several bridges. We put a covered bridge at Bogus Road. On that bridge, we made it covered. Just lots of things. Last year, we got a grant from Travel and Tourism to replace all the safety and information signs in Fayette County. How far is it Frankfurt to Hopewell National Historic Park to Chillicothe? Mileage, safety, features for the whole trail. And this year we're going to do some repair work to the trail. We've got some root incursions and some potholes and things we need to fix permanently, not just cold patch it. So, you know, we're working on it. We just really would like to see council and Mr. Denon really move on this and get it done. The plans are done, everything is ready to go, and get this done. It was just 7 years, it just kind of smoldered. And I understand there was an issue with the West Central Port Authority. The West Central Port Authority has 33 miles of rail trail between Springfield through Urbana all the way up to Belltown. There's also another 3 miles at South Charleston along the Ohio Erie Trail that is West Central Railroad. So I don't know the ins and outs of why it took so long to say no, but they did, and it was very unfortunate. But we've done a lot with just volunteers and donations and fundraisers. I suppose we've raised over $500,000 since 2000 to buy land. We on the new trail, relative new trail, from Jamison Road to 2 miles towards Wilmington. The county commissioners acted as treasurer for that effort. We wrote the grant, it was approved, and Tri-County Trail paid the local share of that, which was $30-some thousand. So, you know, we could help. We have some money that we get, but the Clean Ohio Fund is a primary source of millions of dollars statewide. It was passed in 2008. It passed in every single county. It established $400 million for preservation of agricultural land, preservation of wildlife, preservation of farms, and clean up brownfields. And that's a good source of money. It's every year it's available. I know that Ohio Department of Natural Resources is 100% behind getting this finished, and we need to get it done. I would just implore you to get that project done. On top of that, Hopewell, as you know, has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Chillicothe. Well, guess what? This trail goes right through one of those sites, right past it. And so we anticipate there'll be a lot of interest of people wanting to bicycle from Dayton, you know, all areas. It's going to generate a lot of interest and a lot of traffic. And they'll be coming through Washington Courthouse, and that means economic benefits. So I think it's long overdue, past due, for this to be done. And I just, again, implore you to really seriously get this project done. It just can't get started. I mean, everybody says it's easy, plans are there, there's no bridges, it's flat land, and we need to get this project completed. I've prepared, I was going to talk longer, so I prepared a statement, and if you want to make it available, I didn't bring it up, I just brought one copy.
Oh, okay.
To explain some of the things we've done over the years in more detail. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The Dog Food Way is Companion Way, if I remember right. At one time it was Mars. No, it started out as Doan, changed to Mars, and then we picked a non-company specific name. Hugh's correct. Now, that application was coupled with that extension to the YMCA, and they wanted you to do the whole thing. You couldn't split it up into the part that, the relatively easy part out in the industrial park, that's relatively inexpensive. And the part that proved problematic going out to the YMCA. And you might recall that we even ended up in court with the railroad, who produced an unrecorded deed in the course of the argument that to the satisfaction of the court, said that they own pieces of property that we wanted to put a trail on, and they didn't want a trail on that property. And that is problematic. But we've talked with the Park District about a substantially similar plan to what Hughes talked about. Now, it may be this time around that you split up the application into the industrial park part, and you do that because you own all the property. And not too long ago, Jim, didn't you ask me for an estimate of what that would be? And do you remember what number I gave you? I forget what.
$175,000, because you said the city would do a lot of the work.
There's not, yeah, there's a great deal of that, the prep work you could do. Now, you've got the trail project in town that gets ready for Park District to come into town. But then you could go in next step and do basically what Hugh's talking about. Now, that connection out from the park, Washington Park, to the YMCA, you can do that, but it will require significantly more money than $500,000. I mean, we can look at that again and do another application, but it would be a significantly larger sum than $500,000.
I would like to add that the railroads always say safety. And I can tell you that that is not an issue. There's been one fatality on rail trails in Ohio since, I think, 2000. And that rail trail, now there's been hundreds of people killed at railroad crossings. And there's been people killed at crossings where there's no trail, where they're crossing the street and get hit by a train, unfortunately. And my frustration is the fact that this Port Authority has 35 miles of the same situation, and yet they come to court with I would say, an illegible deed on property that they had officially abandoned on the DC Railroad Registry. That is my understanding. I could be wrong, but they just fought and fought and fought, and it made no sense. And I realize Mr. Denon has to deal with that, but and they already have, the city already has 1,500 feet along that railroad. Is that correct? Going out to the pond?
Probably pretty close, Hugh.
Yeah, and we're gonna just extend it another 3,000 feet to get off it and go to the Y. And it took 7 years. Nothing happened. And that's the frustration is, nothing happened, we didn't get much communication. We had meetings with Mr. Denon, the Recreation Committee, I think Ted, you remember that? And we kept bringing in the same piece of property to consider for the trail. And it was, according to our grant writer, it was the wrong deed, it was the wrong property. But it just gets really frustrating when you spend, we donated the land to the Shaw Wetland to the city for that. We also made a swap for a direct route from Crispin Park to Old Chillicothe Road because of the flooding long enough to make it a all-weather, non-flooded route. And we bought the right-of-way from Crispin Park all the way to New Holland. We bought the right-of-way, Mr. Sobers, the previous city manager, worked with Green County to buy the right-of-way that the trail's coming in from Octa to Washington Courthouse. And we bought the land from Shaw Wetland all the way to Chillicothe. And we donated this to the park districts or the cities to build this trail.
It'd be the
This is
Park
last
District
piece
now.
that needs to be done, and it's been 11 years.
I talked to one of the fellows from the Port Authority, and it was almost like it just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
It's a Simon Kenton Trail. It's a very high-use trail. It runs from downtown Springfield through Urbana to Bell Fountain. And that's the West Central Railroad, and that trail runs parallel to it. It's just the attitude.
Yeah,
They just don't want it. And it's really detrimental to the community. They have no concern with the community. They just don't want people walking along or riding their bikes along that railroad. I'm surprised they let people cross the railroad tracks in town.
Railroad's been very difficult to deal with in many ways. Were we not working on that? I'm asking Ron now. Wasn't that in the plans? And then it got switched to change to the trails in town? Am I right about that? That's right.
And I think the ones in town should be finished first before we go to extending outside of town.
I've not seen that plan for the city trail.
essentially, you'll be done with that this year.
Good, good, so then we can move on to something else.
I mean, I've seen the trail along Oakland Avenue there along the railroad, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, not yet.
I don't know where it's gonna go, but,
They're working
I
on
mean,
it.
you've got a trail that's complete, that could bring tourism into the city. I understand there has to be balance, but, you've got lots of trail in the city already. You know, from, Old Chillicothe Road along the creek, underneath Crispin Park to Sycamore Street, and then across around the, school property, and then it dead ends at Croak.
We've had a lot of discussion about trails,
Mhm.
and it got switched from working on the part you're talking about out by the industrial park to in town. And the money got switched to in town. So I know what you're saying.
That's not,
But Hugh,
I don't agree with that decision. I really don't agree. There's plenty of trails in the city. We can connect up communities. You know, we're coming in finally from Octa, to Washington Courthouse, and we have the trail partially built, half built to Wilmington. That's gonna go all the way down tomorrow to the Ohio Erie Trail. And so there's a lot of interconnectivity here that benefits the city.
Yep.
And safety, so.
Anything else?
no, it's an excellent time to look at what you'll try to do next. But we've had that discussion with the park district. And, it's an excellent time to think about your next move, and I think that that's what we've essentially already talked about, that in terms of trail, basically what he's talking about is your next logical step.
The right of way is there, it's sat for 7 years, nothing's happened, and now you diverted that money to something else.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have legislation previously introduced. First is resolution number R 52, 2023, and it is second reading.
I'll move we on resolution R 52, 2023 on second reading.
Read it second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
yes,
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 52-2023, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, city manager of the city of Washington Courthouse, or his designee to enter into an agreement with EMH&T Engineering Incorporated for engineering services.
Move adoption.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Next is ordinance number 14, 2023, its second reading.
I'll move we put ordinance 14/2023 on second reading.
Second.
Discussion.
I would move
Go ahead.
that we put language that the increases will not continue beyond a 5-year period.
I'll second that.
Give me the Robert's rules here, Mr. Fitzdick.
Well, if, we have a motion, a first and a second, so we need to address that issue by a roll call motion.
And then you can address the second motion.
Are we still in discussion?
Yes. The first motion was to accept ordinance number 14 second reading. That's what we're talking about.
That's
So
what
now
we're
we,
discussing
yes,
about.
that's what we're discussing.
Well, they'd be discussing the proposed amendment, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna lift my head up out of the foxhole here. I've been kind of laying low on this, but we should have done rate increases a long time ago. We've just kicked the can down the road for so long that the EPA's been on us for years and we haven't had the gumption to face the public, but we gotta pay for all of this. And, if you ask the people in New Holland or Mount Sterling if they can afford their water rates, they'd be really in bad shape compared to what we're in. And I think we just can't go forever without raising rates, and I don't know about limiting it to a certain time. I don't think we're saying that we'll in perpetuity be 5%, but we're just trying to catch up. And if we can go whatever it is we gotta do to catch up, then when we catch up, then we can slow down the rate increases. But I don't know how many years since we bought the water company and so on. It's been, what, 30 years?
97, I think, was the last time you did anything with the water side of the equation.
25?
Is that right, Mr. Crispin? You would remember?
Around 93, we bought it.
I believe, yes, you're correct, yes.
So anyway, we still got the same rates, I think.
That's correct.
On the water side, yes.
And it just doesn't make a lot of sense, and we've done a lot of improvements over the years, and we need to do this. I mean, we just gotta bite the bullet and do it. It's probably not politically easy to do, but, I think we need to do it, if we're gonna state anything, until we get caught up, and then start deciding, what we're gonna do about raising the rates,
Then that's,
continuing after that point.
that would be the wording, that revisit it. The wording should be, we would revisit this every 5 years. Do we need to make a change? Instead of stopping it at 5 years, we would revisit it every 5 years, or maybe 3 years, I don't know, it
But we're
might be
not,
fine.
right now, we're not talking about revisiting or stopping or
Yeah.
anything. We're talking about this legislation that's before us. Do we want to pass this legislation?
I don't think we have much choice. We were in the court orders, we built that new wastewater plant. The original estimate was almost 30 million, what, in that, Joe, 65?
You'll end up about $65 million.
And we haven't made the first payment on it. So that's 4%, will we pay that loan back, will it, Joe?
Oh, no.
So, of course, the big one is the wastewater plant. Water's much cheaper to take care of, but getting rid of it is expensive. And about the time you think you got whipped, EPA changes the rules. So, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, or they may have a legitimate reason to, but I don't see how we can operate and pay the darn thing off without getting some more money someplace. And yes, 4% is a good increase. Of course, with them lumped together, you're talking 5, but only 1%, that's water. And, we haven't had an increase since we bought the place, from the water company. inherited it. So we gotta take care of it, we were in a poor order to build that, so. I don't see any solution. I mean, Joe, you figured it out, the 4% when we make, the increase when we probably make a payment.
No, but it starts to obviously head you in the correct direction.
Yeah.
You don't make a payment until you finish the process. That's a High Water Development Authority loan. So we don't have a repayment schedule, but it's relatively easy to take your debt and divide that by 30 years. So that's why you have OWDA loan repayment in this year's budget. You might have to make a half a year's payment this year, which would be $1,250,000 roughly. So that's why that's in there. Now we have, to try to make it easier for everybody, we have applied for a grant. It's associated with that Federal Inflation Reduction Act, which does allow you to retrospectively look at your expenses for a 2-year period. So we may gain a little bit of relief in that respect. But that could be anywhere from nothing to potentially $10 million.
Unless we do get anything like that, we want to revisit this ordinance and adjust it.
Yes, you could, or setting you're gonna have to look at it anyway, so quite honestly, from my perspective, whether or not you leave the ordinance the way it is or amend it the way that's been suggested is almost 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. If it makes some people more comfortable to have an end date, then by all means go ahead and do that. But likely you'll have to revisit the issue and look at it again before a 5-year time frame's up.
Yeah. Even if you make it through the first 5 years, you won't have to do it the next 5, and the next 5 after that.
That's what I was saying,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the public would be more comfortable knowing that after 5 years, we're gonna pay this, they're gonna know for 5 years, and then we're gonna look and see where we stand. We'll get a report where we stand, maybe we could reduce the amount, the percentage. I just think the public would be more comfortable knowing.
I don't think it'd ever get reduced, but it could stop. Wouldn't be any more adding to it, I believe. Because in 5 years, we hope things will grow more. There'll be more demand. There's definitely going to be more housing coming to Washington Courthouse, to the city limits. So there's going to be more demand on our water. And if we do get a new manufacturer out at the industrial park, that's going to put even more pressure on the demand for water.
What you need to do long-term for water will add up to every bit of what you spend on sewer.
Yes. But the revisiting, you're correct, of every 5 years. But then again, I know what you're saying, Dale. This is not.
I wanna give, Caleb hadn't had a chance to talk, Sylvia hasn't had a chance to talk.
Okay.
Anybody else has, do you wanna say anything, Caleb?
Just briefly, I want to say I 100% agree with what Mr. Hawk, Mr. Chrisman, Mr. Denon said. It needs to be increased. It hasn't been increased. I mean, we all know here that yes, things are tough in part because the cost of living across the board has gone up. The cost of using services has gone up. And we've been lucky, blessed, however you want to look at it, that we haven't had to resort to this before. At this point, with where we're looking at in transitioning to the future, I think that we all agree that we need to do something. And so that's why I would ask, not just to Chris who spoke, but to everyone, you know, what is an increase that we can live with? Because 0 is not feasible. So I would be open to listening to what is reasonable, And when it was explained to me, our intention was 5 years. And so if it's a comfort to people in this community for us to put our intentions in writing, I think that's a good idea. And so that's why I would support the language.
Sylvia?
I don't discount the reality of needing to increase to be able to pay for the services that we have. But I do feel like there should be parameters, so that there is a knowledge or an expectation. And like we've said, if at 5 years or 3 years or whatever we decide, that reality is we still owe a significant amount, we need to continue these, then that's fine. If, however, we end up with a grant or we end up with whatever, I just feel like there should be some sort of language in there to create that perimeter so that the people paying this have an idea of, is it gonna go up 5% for the rest of my life? How does this look? Cause that's a significant chunk for people to process, I think.
Okay, Mark, question for you. We need to have a roll call on Steve and Jim Chrisman's motion to approve ordinance number 14. We don't.
No, you need to deal with the amendment first.
That's the first thing we need to do.
Okay,
Sorry if I
that's
misspoke.
okay. So the amendment, wait a minute, motion was made by Caleb
Yes.
and second by Jim. Okay. So we need a roll call on the amendment. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Now, what would the amendment say?
that you're gonna put a 5-year limit on the rate increases, is my understanding. Is that not?
No,
What do
that
you
isn't
wanna
what
do?
I said revisit
Okay.
in 5 years. I think that's what Mr. Blair, you say.
So
revisit.
let's make sure we understand
Are
what
we
we're
using
doing here.
revisit or are we using, time limit? Which wording are we using?
I didn't make the motion.
That's what I'm asking.
I would argue a time limit, not to steal your motion. But I feel like the opportunity to revisit is continuously there, whether everyone understands that reality or not. I think having that concrete, and again, that's something that could be revisited if necessary too. I just think semantically, it's a lot easier to swallow a time limit.
There's a
Yeah.
big difference in the two wordings.
There's a big difference,
The two wordings.
big difference.
Then I meant a time limit from the beginning.
I figured you did.
Yeah,
A
of course.
5-year time limit?
Sure, yes.
Jim, is that what you had
Yes.
to say?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Okay, so we need a roll call on the amendment. Correct, Mark?
That's correct.
Roll
If I
call.
might say something.
Okay.
If the limit is 5 years and we do get that grant or something, should we add on to that 5 years or as needed to revisit it? It makes sense.
That would be wonderful.
We still need that wording
Yeah.
revisit.
Is that a,
Revisit's fine, but
Yes.
if the situation changes, chemicals double and triple and get a lot, and EPA comes after it, maybe 4%, well, enough.
I believe that was the amendment.
Well, let's make sure we
meant-
understand
Yeah,
what we're
we're
doing.
still confused. We're still
You guys
confused.
you wanna make sure we got several
I
words
say
flying around here.
revisit.
Yeah.
5 years.
They say limit, stop it at 5 years. I say revisit, so which wording are you using?
I don't have any
Revisit.
objection to Caleb's word, if we had
Mhm.
that little thing that I said.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Revisit
Yeah.
if needed.
Time limit, revisit if needed.
Sure.
Can we use
5
both wording?
years.
Can we use both wording?
You
No,
can
you
say
can't.
5 years,
No.
revisit it.
And revisit in 5 years, or what do you want?
Is that what you're saying?
It says time limit and what he proposed, which is revisit if needed, so it allows us
If
to
the
both,
dynamics have
it
changed.
says both, I think that
Can we do
conveys
both?
what we are meaning.
Can we
The
do both like
ordinance
that?
says goes out, we have to renew it or redo it in 5 years. That's taking care of that part.
Mhm.
Cause I don't wanna be locked into something and we can't revisit it.
You can always
Oh,
revisit, you
okay.
can always
You can always-
amend,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's always been the
Okay,
issue.
there you go. Okay.
We can
That's
all,
fine.
council has the ability at any time to revisit this in the future. I mean, we don't, that's the reason the time limit wasn't something that we considered to begin with.
Okay.
Because next year, you can come back and say, oh, we don't want a raise this year. But the only thing about it, I will say, that you're always a year behind. So if you say there's no tax, there's not gonna be any increase in your utility cost, then you're losing out on a year's collection to pay on the mortgage, or for the repayment on the sewer plant. So that's something to consider. I just want you to know, I've had other municipalities that have done that, then they've had to make it up out of the general funds. So just be careful how we end this, because we don't wanna then say at some point here, we have to revisit, and then you wait 6 months and not revisit it, and then we don't have that 5% in there that needs to be in there, or 10% or whatever, or 2%, because you've lost out.
So when you say if we revisit, it's gotta be done right then.
Gotta be done right
Very
then.
quickly, very quickly. Can't be put off and put off.
And if you don't increase, if you need an increase, then you're gonna have to make it up from some funds, because you're gonna have to make that payment. And the only place that you can make the payment is out of the general fund.
No, we don't wanna do that.
I'm just letting you
We
know.
don't wanna do that.
So you gotta be careful how you do this, because how it's timed, there's a timing difference here.
Well, Mr. Lynch, if it's okay to, you can get into a situation, if you do not raise the revenue to meet the OWDA application mark, you've seen situations where OWDA says basically, okay, council, you don't wanna do it, this is your sewer rate, thank you very much, have a nice day.
They just come down and they install their people at your utility council, or your utility counters, and say, this is your rate, this is what you're gonna charge, without council's approval. They can do that, they have that authority. The EPA has that authority to come down here and do that.
I don't think anybody's saying we shouldn't raise the rates.
I understand that, I'm just saying,
I think that's off the table then. Because the rates are gonna go up January first, well, if this goes through, it's gonna immediately go into effect.
it will immediately go into
But
effect.
we're not making the payments until, as Joe said, so we're gonna accumulate a little bit extra ahead of time.
I understand what you're saying,
So where are we at now?
A time limit of 5 years, revisited as needed.
Is everybody okay with that?
I think we'll need a roll call, yeah.
We need a roll call.
Roll call,
If that's the wording we're gonna use.
that's the
Yeah.
wording.
Okay.
Roll call.
Alright. Blair,
Yes,
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
That's on the amendment. Right.
Okay, with that amendment now, we need to vote on ordinance number 14 as amended.
Yes.
We had a motion by Steve and a second by Jim Chrisman. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call for ordinance number 14 with the amendment.
Thank you. Blair,
yes,
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Amended ordinance number 14-2023, an ordinance amending codified ordinance 54.03, monthly charges, increasing sewer rates in contemplation of the construction of a new wastewater treatment plant and appurtenances thereto.
Okay, now to new legislation. First is resolution number R1, 2024.
I'll move we put resolution R1 2024 on first reading.
second,
Discussion? Roll call.
Blair,
yes,
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R1-2024, a resolution confirming Mr. Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, appointment of Mr. Jeff Ruth to the Civil Service Commission to to fulfill an unexpired term concluding December 31st, 2025.
Resolution number R2, 2024, first reading.
I move we place resolution number R2, 2024 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Call.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Hawk. I'm sorry, Lynch.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Resolution number 3, 2024, first reading.
I need to read this one.
You need what?
Do I need to read resolution R2?
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, did you read it?
No,
Oh,
not yet.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
You need to read it.
No, that's okay. Resolution number R2-2024, a resolution confirming Mr. Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, appointment of Mr. Ron Stockman to the Fayette County Travel and Tourism Board to fulfill an unexpired term concluding December 31st, 2025. I didn't miss that one.
Resolution number R3, 2024, first reading.
I'll move we put resolution, number 03, 2024 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion.
I understand this is kind of a safeguard to keep us from going off on a tangent downtown, something we don't really want. I mean, this is kind of a safety measure kind of thing that we just don't.
Yeah, and a way for us to look at some issues in a different light. There's a old book on resilient downtowns. I already ordered a copy of that. And just talk and examine some of the things that we do and how we do it, and to have an internal discussion about how we interact with folks like Main Street Fayette and how that's supposed to properly function. So yeah, you could call it that, Ted. That's not an inaccurate way to think about it.
The language, in case you're curious in the audience, I see that the committee consists of one member of the council, goes on to also include the economic development director, the assistant fire chief, and the code enforcement officer. So the last two, the assistant fire chief and the code enforcement officer, it would follow logically that those people would be interested in making sure that our buildings are not unsafe and a hazard to the community.
Correct. Any other comments? Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Call.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R3-2024, a resolution creating the Downtown Vitality Task Force, assigning members and considering objectives for the Downtown Vitality Task Force.
Miscellaneous. Sylvia, you get to go first. Sure. What do you want to say tonight after your first meeting?
Well, again, just continue to be grateful for the opportunity to be out here and to represent, and try to represent, my community. A little surreal and a little different on this side of it. But, just super thankful to be up here. I know you know, Mr. Lynch, that I taught for 10 years. I do autism therapy now, which is a little different than teaching high school English, but I still have that knack for it. So I apologize in advance for the amounts of literary quotes and poems that I'll be sharing. But my very first quote that I wanted to share is by my very favorite author from my very favorite book. My little ones had to go home because bedtime is at 9, so I don't get to hear it, but they've heard it before. But it's by J.R.R. Tolkien from The Hobbit. And it's one that we've read aloud over and over with the little ones, and it says, "I have found that it is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folks that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love." And I'm hopeful that we can all kind of embody that sentiment as we move through the year and serve the community. So, that's all I've got.
Excellent. Mr. Hawk?
Well, I've been in a few discussions already this year, about as heavy as this one has been tonight. I'm glad that we can talk these things over and come to a consensus. And I really appreciate being on council. I mean, it's really a privilege and an honor for me to have a voice in the affairs that are gonna affect me and my family and all. And so, I wanna be everybody's friend, but I also know that there's times when I have to voice my opinion, and I'm glad for the opportunity to do that. And I just love this country and the way we're set up, and I hope we're able to preserve it forever without any limits. So that's all.
Mr. Christie?
With this time's infection, my comments are probably pretty brief. Thanks everyone for coming, appreciate it. Back to this again, thank you. That's all I got.
Mr. Schultz?
Well, basically along those same lines, with everybody showing up and voicing their opinions from time to time, bringing things to light that we didn't maybe look at it a certain way. And we have our discussions and we come to a conclusion, and we take care of a concern for the citizens. I've always been a person that liked to finish a project, so as far as the trails go, I would like to see the city, inside the city limits, done first before we go expanding off in other directions other than a grant. That's a whole different project. If we could get a grant for it, that's fine. But I think if we start splitting off in 14 different directions, you'll never get anything done. You've got to concentrate on something first and work on it, get it finished, then move on to something else. That is the only way you're going to ever accomplish anything. We started the in-city project, that's what we should finish. And that's what I want to see done this year in 2024. So it's a new challenge, it's a new year, it's new things. We continue moving forward. We have to always think about the safety, security of the citizens of Washington Courthouse and what is best for them. And I'm sure, if you ask anybody in the city, they're gonna say they want clean water. When they turn that faucet on, let the water come on, they really don't care what they're paying for it, as long as it comes on when they turn on that faucet. So we have to do what we have to do to keep good, clean water and keep the sewage going out and clean water coming in. So these are discussions that come up from time to time, and as you can see, we come to a conclusion and can work on those things. But it is interesting, like Mr. Hawk just said, being on city council, we come across a lot of things, but we have to concentrate on certain things first. And it's always the safety, security of the city. Another thing, before money is even spent on any trails, if any of our departments, our police department, our fire department, our service department needs money for something, the money should go to them first, because that is the safety and security of the citizens of Washington. So, and that's where I come from. So, but that, it's gonna be cold weather. Thank you all for coming. It's gonna be, hope you don't freeze over there. The weatherman said it's gonna get really, really cold, and then it's gonna cool off from there. And like Paul Harvey once said, he said the weather people reported 21 of the last 4 snowstorms. So, so that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Mr. Blair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everyone that's been here tonight and voiced your opinion. We'd like to see that every council meeting. Your concerns, we will listen, and may not always come out the way that we all want it to, but I guarantee, as Mr. Lynch has said many times, we will listen to what you have to say and weigh it before we make a decision. And then I had a quote from Mr. Vince, the great Vince Lombardi. And I was reading a book on excellence, and this quotation came in. It said, "Perfection in this life is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." That's all I have, sir.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, thank everyone, thank you all for coming. Thank you in particular to Amy Davis, who said that you were afraid of speaking. And it's always good when people face their fears. So I think we, as a group in this room, everyone here, I think we did well tonight. So thank you to everyone here, and let's have a happy 2024.
I'm for it. I could say a lot of things. What I'm gonna say is we need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Call,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yeah.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes, we are adjourned.